The price of red meat could become more expensive for many households. This as the country has been battling permanently contain the outbreaks of foot and mouth diseases for several years now. The foot and mouth disease is common among cattle, sheep and goats and is characterized by fever and blister-like sores on the tongues and lips. This after one of the country's biggest feedlot in Heidelberg halted production due to an outbreak of the foot and mouth disease at its facilities. In a statement, Agricultural Minister John Steenhuisen says due to the current foot and mouth disease outbreak, government has ordered vaccines to cover the KwaZulu-Natal area, while assessment as well as forward and backward tracing of the outbreak is ongoing in Gauteng.
Karen Beef has South Africa's largest feedlot, reportedly slaughtering approximately 2,000 heads of cattle daily. The beef company recently reported a foot and mouth disease outbreak at one of its facilities in Heidelberg, east of Johannesburg. It says, apart from the KwaZulu-Natal outbreak back in December, this is one of the biggest knocks to the red meat industry. The Southern African Agricultural Initiative says due to this incident, red meat consumers can expect to pay more for red meat in the long run.
Currently, we know there is a very big disaster management area in the KwaZulu-Natal area, which has been there since December because of the amount of outbreaks that are reported there, almost just over 150. But the Heidelberg incident was a real knock to the system, and that is why you are seeing such urgency, is because, you know, this is a very reputable feedlot with extremely good biosecurity controls, and it also affects a lot of farmers downstream as they deliver to this facility. The biggest knock is, of course, immediately to the farmers as they are unable to deliver to this facility, and of course all our exports to China have been immediately halted. This will now cause in the very short term, a increase of red meat onto the shelves, which will mean lower prices in the short term, and then in the longer term, as farmers keep their weaner calves away, because of this lack of being able to deliver and the lower prices, it will mean an increase in prices in the longer term.
Karen Beef says the first outbreak at its facility was detected on the 30th of May this year. The company says while this is a setback to its export business, South African red meat lovers can rest assured that it will still supply the local market.
The exports are of secondary consideration for us. Our first priority is our own people. We first have to feed our own nation. Our own food security is more important. So yes, our own exports were cancelled immediately. The Heidelberg facility was our export registered feedlot, and that stopped immediately. But I think consumers would like to know whether they will have access to meat, access to the same quality meats, the same safety, everything. And this is where we can assure you that even though the wheels are turning a little bit slower from our other facilities, at Pietermaritzburg as well as at Nigel, we will be slaughtering. We are slaughtering every day, but the volumes are less.
Agricultural economists have warned that the disease presents a threat to the red meat industry due to the halt in exports.
For the first quarter of this year, beef performed very well, with exports for both frozen and fresh beef getting closer to 1 billion, something that is quite big if you have to compare it to the same period, the previous year. So there's a serious, stakes around this, not only for the overall revenue that the sector does generate, but specifically for the farmers who are now have to keep their products until the thing has been, the disease has been contained, and then they can continue. But that has implications for their, value chain, of course, and for their primary profits.
The Red Meat Producers Organization says while regulations and measures are put in place, some farmers don't always adhere to the rules, which leads to the spread of the disease. Nothando Makutulela, SABC News, Johannesburg.
All right, for more on this, let's now welcome the FNB's agricultural economist, Paul Makube. Paul, a very good afternoon to you, and thank you so much for your time. So just having listened, of course, to that clip and listening to various voices on this matter, give us your sense in terms of just how concerned are you with this latest outbreak, particularly when we look at the economic impact of this latest outbreak. We know, of course, that it is concentrated in KwaZulu-Natal, but there is concern that it could be more widespread.
Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. This is a worrying issue. We have had, an FMD outbreak previously, and the issue of KZN has been there for quite some time. We also saw in the Eastern Cape, the Free State has had its fair share of, FMD outbreaks. And this is the, largest one on one of the big, producers. So definitely that is a knock on the industry, especially that from an export perspective, any outbreak result in a ban from major importers. And hence the announcement that, they are not able to export, although they have an export license from the producer. So that has a huge impact on the domestic market in terms of prices. There are short-term and long-term implications from a pricing perspective. That in a short term you might have a little bit of a supply, situation with prices, coming a little bit down. But in the long term, with depending on how long it takes to resolve the situation, then you have a significant rebound in prices. Prices increasing significantly in the longer term if the situation is not resolved sooner than later.
What more can government do, particularly when you consider that even the Minister of Agriculture has commented on this in as far as vaccines are concerned? But when you hear that one of the country's biggest feedlots in Heidelberg has halted production due to this outbreak, I mean, you speak about short-term and long-term effects. What then does it mean, particularly from from government's mitigation perspective?
Now, obviously, from a government perspective, this is one of the biggest hit on the industry, and hence the urgency to deal with the matter. And I think we are encouraged by the direction that the authorities are taking. You saw with the announcement on vaccination in the poultry industry, hopefully with the announcement as well that there is procurement of vaccines. And also, establishment of rapid, task teams to actually take on this matter. That's welcome news because the only way to deal with this is on a, medium to long-term perspective in terms of ensuring that the disease is contained where it is, more prevalent. We know where Footandmouth is, and ensure that there is traceability and adherence to certain protocols that will ensure that you don't have the spread of the disease. And I think perhaps it's a lesson for everybody in the value chain to understand the enormity of the situation. That we need to be cognizant of the fact that this has very serious economic implications for the country if we don't adhere to rules. So. That's all I can say in terms of government intervention at the moment. I think is commendable in terms of the prioritization of this matter to ensure that we get some vaccination, we get systems in place to ensure that we contain the disease.
And just talking about getting systems in place, I mean, my next question would have been then, what lessons can we draw from this? Because we know, of course, that South Africa's livestock also suffered tremendously from the avian flu outbreak. in light, of course, of all the tariff wars that we are currently seeing, and that some countries have also halted and have stopped, exports from South Africa, banning, certain, products, particularly when you look at markets like China, Namibia, and Zimbabwe in terms of what we are dealing with now. What are some of those systems that South Africa should put in place, driving from those key lessons from the 2 outbreaks that I've just mentioned, particularly when we're looking at outsourcing? We're still outsourcing vaccines.
Yes, I think there's efforts to actually to go a long way with the traceability that will ensure that we know where the movement of cattle. But also, tightening situations where people move, cattle around the country, and obviously that requires, strict monitoring from law enforcement agencies as well coming on board. And I think the lesson from here is that lost revenue in terms of exports and also constraining growth of the industry, which has a potential to grow. Obtaining an FMD-free status, takes some time, and obviously that is an opportunity lost for the industry. And I think the immediate one is with regard to the lower end, where the cattle producers need to get access to markets to actually market their products. Their livestock, they are now affected due to the fact that some of the large markets, such as Karen, have been, are not taking in animals, and therefore decline in prices and also delays in terms of them getting, their marketable animals to right places.
All right, Paul, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Paul Makube is FNB's agricultural economist.